they're going to be growing people in pods, like growing babies in pods, right? What was this about?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so they could use that to grow aliens in pods, right? It's the future of birthing. This is just outrageous to me. I mean, this is fully, completely unethical, absolutely should not be happening. The idea
Mhm,
that they're going to be growing babies in artificial wombs,
mhm.
essentially, and then birthing them in these pods. What is this? What are they? Who's doing this?
It was just another step in the transhumanist anti-human goal against divorcing people from God, divorcing people from nature. So that the pregnant robots are in China, but so there's
Ugh,
that, and they're basically going to put a baby in a robot, and you can just outsource your pregnancy to a robot with a hose that to feed the baby, which I think is just insane, dangerous, not good. But this is an idea that's also been floated by Elon Musk. You can go back a few years and see him talking about artificial wombs, and there's articles out there about him talking with people about what they were calling artificial womb factories that could house up to 30,000 artificial wombs. That can't be good, and these people are transhumanists and they're eugenicists, and this is their dream. A lot of those guys, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, the kind of guys who purchased our children, imagine if they could just grow it in a robot that they built.
right.
uh, this is the plan. That is the future, where they want you to just not be human. You're going to be in your pod, you're going to be in your little 15-minute city, you're going to be in your metaverse that Zuckerberg created, and they're going to be reading your thoughts and sending you subliminal messages, vaccinating you through your food, and you're not going to be married. You'll have a girlfriend who's AI, perhaps. That's already happening. People are taking their lives because their AI girlfriend is messing up their head. um, so it just seems like a sort of inevitable offshoot of what the transhumanists want. And if you look at someone like or a company like Orchid, they're a big IVF company where they say, we're just doing this to help the people who are infertile. And I get it. And it's a hard thing to argue against, although I'm against IVF, but I get how hard it is to have a child. But their
Mhm.
goal isn't just that. Their goal is to make this the common thing. Their goal is to make it
Mhm.
so everyone chooses IVF. Just how, you know, uh, cesareans weren't always happening, but now they schedule C-sections all the time because it's easier for everyone
Yeah,
to just do that. That's not how it usually goes, right?
right.
I have 3 kids. I've seen this go down. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's what they want. Orchid wants IVF and their eugenics to be the norm. The same way Elon sells Neuralink. It's like, we're going to help people who are paraplegics. We're going to help people who have epilepsy, the people who can't see. But down the road, not too far down the road, that Neuralink will become something like the iPhone, where if you don't have it,
Yeah.
you're not part of our society. And it's all growing up into the social credit score that China already has, that the people in our AI and our tech sector certainly love, especially like Alex Karp and Peter Thiel from Palantir love that stuff. They've talked about how they've used Palantir to attack the far right in Europe. And it was just 4 or 5 years ago, and all these people who are getting lots of money from our government now were our enemy, who were censoring us off of every platform that they owned. So I don't trust them. And but this is their dream for when they say they're pro family, like a Musk says he's pro family or Thiel says he's pro family. They're not pro family in the natural sense. They're pro family in the
No.
sense that you can make your baby in a warehouse and have an AI wife raise it.
That needs to be banned. I mean, look, I don't understand, actually. I don't understand why anybody would outsource the growing of the baby, right? And be like, well,
Mhm,
I mean, I get it. I understand because it's not
mhm.
easy.
Not
It's
easy.
a
Yeah.
difficult process. But that's part of the bonding process. I mean, I don't know how these kids are going to turn out if
Mhm,
they're literally growing in a robot that doesn't have any nurturing skills, that isn't talking all the time. I mean, babies in the womb, they're hearing their mother talking, they're hearing people talking around, they're enjoying the food that mom eats, right? They're doing all of
mhm.
those things. I mean, these kids are going to be psychopaths.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to be perfect for Silicon Valley. That's what they're creating their own clones. I'm sure they've already been doing this, and this is just us hearing about it now for the first time. But yeah, it's antithetical to humanity. This is not healthy for nature. But they don't
No.
really care about nature. They don't care about a healthy future for humanity. Another version of this would be the Rainmaker CEO that was making the rounds a few weeks ago, and his cloud
Mhm.
seeding stuff. It's the same situation every time. They're going to go on your podcast and they're going to say, we're just going to help the farmers. We want to help the farmers. We want to help the crops. But if you go deep enough down what they say, he says it straight up. We are going to make the rain for the data centers. Everything's for the data centers, and we're giving all this money to OpenAI and all these places to make data centers everywhere. And here, in Virginia, not too far away, is data center capital. Texas is having more data centers. Idaho, so it's because data centers soak up a lot of water. So that's the future. Your baby's in a robot. You got no more farmland. Your data centers are taking all the fake rain out of the sky. You don't have a job. You're hooked up to the metaverse, and I just think it's such an ugly way to see work, to see life. But
Yeah.
they see it as beauty because the transhumanist thinks that it's there's more profit and more power and more beauty in a almost like a fake immortality because they're playing God. They want to biohack into the future, and their idea of consequence. They have a different idea of consequence because they see lifespans as much longer. They want to live forever, and I think it should be deeply opposed, and I hope we don't do it here, but I imagine they will at some point. I think the problem with conservatives is that they always, cede ground to a lot of these dystopian attitudes, and eventually it just becomes a new norm because they don't want to come
Yeah.
across as being against progress. But progress can be very destructive, and
I was really
I am
surprised.
deeply opposed to it.
I was really surprised that conservatives embraced Elon Musk to the level that they did,
Oh, it's
with
stupid.
his well, and not just, whatever his ideas, there's a lot to like about Elon Musk, but there's also but his personal life in particular, there's like nothing to like about his personal life. And yet conservatives just completely embrace the guy. And
Hmm.
and now, the narrative of like, yeah, we need more babies, right? Because Elon's like, we need more babies, and he's making babies with we don't even know how many babies he actually has. There's so many we know about, and then I'm sure there's others
Hmm.
we don't even know about of women he's
Definitely.
supporting and paying for, and he's got all these kids, right? And he's clearly not the father to all of. I mean, he's maybe the dad, the biological father, but not an
Hmm.
actual dad to these children.
Hmm.
He's not around, and yet all of these conservatives. It was so bizarre to see
Hmm.
conservatives suddenly go from like the trad wife trend and like, like we got to have traditional family values to suddenly
Hmm.
being we just need more people. Like we just need
Yep.
to pump. Yeah, and Elon. It's like wait, so you guys railed against the black guys that were doing exactly what Elon Musk is doing, by the way. Like
Right.
these guys were
Right.
going out having 12 kids with 12 different women. And
Hmm.
then you'd be like, black families have problems, and this is the problem with the black community. And then suddenly
Yeah.
Elon Musk does it, and it's like, oh, we need to be doing yes, yay, we need more people. We need
Yep.
people.
Yeah, well,
It's
conservatives are so desperate to be liked by anyone in the mainstream that they are willing to sacrifice their moral center, to have that help, to have that boost. And he certainly boosted Trump, but I've never been a fan of Musk. I think everything he does is against humanity. I think he's a fake. I think everything he says is a lie. I think he's a drug addict. And I really wish they didn't embrace him. I think, I like the idea of Doge, but I think even that was a failure. And I think
Mhm.
there's nothing he offers anyone that's any good. People, oh, he does space, he does this and that. Yes, I get it. And I love innovation, but his idea of the future is like everything I just laid out. It's against
Right.
you. It is not for you. It's for him. It's for his friends, and they want you to be the slaves plugged into their machines. And that is just, in my opinion, that's evil.
Well, and talk about really needing to rely on the elites and really needing to rely on machines. If we colonize Mars, I
Mhm.
mean, Mars is not habitable. I don't know. It is colder than Antarctica. It is freezing. It is not habitable. There's no oxygen. All these problems with Mars, but he's like, let's colonize Mars, and Mars is the future. And it's like, oh wow, you're gonna go there and you worry about central bank digital currency. I mean, they're gonna have
Mhm.
oxygen. Oxygen will
Mhm.
have to you're gonna
Mhm.
have to ser you're
Have
gonna
you seen
need literally everything.
have you seen him talk about how he's going to make Mars habitable? He has this idea of dropping thermonuclear bombs on the poles of Mars to
What?
make it to make it habitable. He said there's other ways, but he said that's the quick way. But yeah, I just don't trust him. I think he's just fraudulent, and the Neuralink really bothers me, despite its short-term benefits. But everything he does with the IVF and not being an active father while
Yeah.
speaking out of one side of his mouth, saying, I'm pro-family, it's just not good. So we'll see, we'll see. And I also think perhaps he's human. I'm not really sure. The jury's still out on that. But humans are good and bad. There's no one who's fully just bad. I mean, maybe I have a handful in mind, but he could be redeemed. But my problem with him is that he is a technocrat, and a lot of those guys around him are technocrats, and they want to rule all of us because they think an expert should be in charge. So how do you define an expert, right? We learned during COVID, experts mean nothing. If you didn't already know that, experts are just book educated college university types who think they know more than you. So the technocracy is something that I think they are moving towards really fast right now, especially with the news of him saying he's going to back Vance. And Vance, there's things I like about him, but Vance is connected to Teal, connected to Silicon
Right.
Valley, and everything they do is for the technocracy. And they think they're better than you. They're not into democracy. They're not into humans, although they say they are. Everything they are building towards is towards an expert-run government, which I oppose because I don't know how you define expert anymore.
Yeah.
Fauci was. I was told Fauci was an expert. Clearly that was wrong. So that is the thing I think is happening next. Outside of all the alien stuff, is I'm watching how this technocracy is kind of spinning out of control right now.
Yeah. Well, and they could create the aliens. I mean, the only way that I think that people would go along with these, which would be totally sick and twisted, but the only way people would go along with, okay, let's grow people in wombs, is if they're not actually people, right? If it's
Mhm.
like, well, they're not people. They're modified. They're not human beings. So don't worry about it. And that actually would convince quite a few people to be like, oh, okay, well, so we're growing whatever in there that are not humans. And then they could use those aliens, these like weird
Mhm.
non-human aliens for like
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, and I think people would go along with that if they were not human.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. I mean, we got Bill Gates making butter out of thin air right now. They're willing to create things in these labs. Like, look at all the stories we've heard in the videos and the testimonies of what happened to the babies that were aborted at Planned Parenthoods that wound up in university labs in like Pennsylvania. What are they doing with
Mhm.
that? They're experimenting on those. They're probably
Yeah.
growing something. We saw crazy stuff with their fusing. They're making like animal hybrids with these chimeras. They're not opposed to doing that kind of stuff. I for sure am. I don't think they should be growing anything like a human. But this cloning discussion has been going on for a while. It's just kind of fallen out of the mainstream. But you can go back to the '90s when we had a cloning like a panic. Kind of like a
Yeah.
satanic panic. Bill Clinton came out, had to give a whole speech on we're not going to clone people and stuff like that because there were major companies claiming on cloning. But I'm sure there were, and I'm sure they never stopped.
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.